From the creators who brought you RuPaul's Drag Race and Million Dollar Listing, this is World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Wow Report. It's 2024, our first new show. What, James? It's not 2024?
No, I was shaking my head in disbelief that we're already in 2024. It's insane.
We're already in 2024. I hope you've survived the holidays. I think, beyond the Instagram, it's a traumatic period for pretty much everybody, right?
Well, I survived 2023 at all is amazing. So 2024 can only get better in my estimation.
That's right. And that, of course, is the lovely dulcet voice of James St. James. And also joining us, our Chief Creative Officer, Tom Campbell.
Hi, it's Tom Campbell. And I just want to say, I'm a little suspect of people who are like, thank God 2023 is over. We've been saying that since like 2016, people. You've got to eke the joy.
Are you coming for me 3 minutes into the show? Are you?
Happy New Year! Happy New Year, James.
Was 2023 a particularly bad year? I mean, everyone was saying, I can't wait to see the end, but there wasn't a pandemic,
strike for some people.
Personally, I had a lot of bad moments in 2023.
Strife.
Not including breaking my arm and being incapacitated for 6 months. So
no, I totally forgot about that because it was all my fault.
I lost some family members. Yeah. It was not a good year for me.
Yeah.
So back off.
All right.
That's fair.
And of course, Blake Jacobs is here, our producer.
Hi.
Oh, hi. So we're going to count down the top 10 things that made us go wow. And we're going to do what we normally do, which is start at number 10. Tom.
Number 10.
I went out to the movies, which in itself is just newsworthy enough for me. My Pilates instructor, David, had told me he had seen it and liked it. It's a movie I never would have seen, but I was home for Christmas, and I have a 9-year-old nephew, and it seemed with the recommendation, we should go see Wonka.
Oh.
Which James has told me a lot about, because James is very, very pointed in that the promo, no music, and yet it's a musical. And then Timothee Chalamet was recently on a Saturday Night Live, and he kind of did a really great job. So he's kind of bright in my mind. And then I realized I've never seen Dune. I don't want to see Dune. There's a new Dune.
You don't need to.
I don't
like coming this year.
Yes. I don't like, I've said this before, I don't like future movies that are set like Star Wars in deserts, dirty. It's like, won't we have goggles and things to make things feel nicer than they are, even if they are like that? Anyway, the Wonka review is 2 chocolate thumbs up.
Oh.
Enjoyed it. It's got a pretty fabulous cast. And Timothée Chalamet is so charming.
Is he? He is charming. He's a beautiful boy, and he is a talented actor. But did we really need a prequel to a movie that's already been done 3 times?
I was just saying when the IHOP commercial with the purple pancakes came on, I was just saying there's not another movie I want to see least than this movie.
Yeah.
I went out of odd circumstances, but I saw the original Willy Wonka, which I think holds up and is pretty cool. I never saw the Johnny Depp one. I have nothing bad to say about Johnny Depp. Johnny, if you're listening, I could be your friend, but I just don't give a shit about Johnny Depp. I don't like him as a pirate. He overacts me. So I have not been over Willy Wonka. And Timothée Chalamet, it's a sweet story. It's told in a sweet way. And I realized I really haven't seen Timothée Chalamet in anything except for Call Me By Your Name. And then I had to Google, what did he do with the peach? Because now I'm thinking about Saltburn and the idea that they're licking.
You were looking away during the peach scene?
No, I watched, but I'd forgotten. I know my feelings about it. I remember loving, what's his name? Army, or what's his name?
We aren't allowed to love, no. We aren't allowed to love Army Hammer anymore.
I did then. I remember loving him then. I'm telling you about feelings, people. And I remember there was the thing, and I remember there was, ejaculate, and I couldn't remember if he ate it or not. And I found out in the book he ate it. And then I just thought, Willy Wonka, is it who's the author of Willy Wonka? It's
Roald Dahl.
Yes, and he also wrote James and the Giant Peach.
Who's also
ding,
kind
ding,
of-
ding, ding. So there's a lot of peach.
I think there should be a James and the Giant Peach with Timothee Chalamet.
But I also think there's a Roald Dahl moment, James, right? In that he was sort of anti-Semitic, I think, and has been generally cancelled.
Well, in fact, wasn't there a big thing like with Agatha Christie where they went through and redacted all of his books because there's some language.
Agatha was a man?
What?
Agatha was a man?
No, you guys. Okay. Agatha Christie's books have all been redacted and updated in a way that it infuriates authors because her language does not fly in 2021. There's lots of J words and N words and things like that.
Okay.
Whereas the same can be said of Roald Dahl, whose books all just came out again in America, heavily changed.
Oh, really? Oh, they got redacted. Okay.
Well, Wonka is an original. And it is more attuned to today's sensibilities.
Yes, because it reads as racist and anti-Semitic. And there's a big, problem with if you're dead and you're an author and somebody goes in, if after you die, somebody goes in and changes screen age, it's wrong. I mean,
screenage.
But wouldn't you be furious in having
I
her
would,
hall
but I would be dead.
bar?
So, and I should be so lucky that someone wants to reread it, let alone rewrite it. Like,
I don't know. I'm sort of an originalist in that sense. I don't like the idea that people are changing my.
I agree, but Wonka, this is a prequel that Roald Dahl did not write, right?
Right. Correct. And it really rolls into, as I've read, the original one. It really sets that whole myth up. And it's beautifully sung. Hugh Grant.
Are there any songs that will stand the test of time and will still be singing?
I don't know about that because my mind doesn't work as well. But they did bring back the magic.
Loompa.
That comes back and it's so good. And that's all my nephew was singing the next day. It's the hit. It's the hit remix. But there are a couple politically incorrect by today's standards, and I don't care, which is Hugh Grant plays an Oompa Loompa, which he's made short and he's so good at it. He's so mean and so fabulous. And Keegan Michael Key of Key and Peele plays the sheriff who gets bribed with chocolate by this whole chocolate, OPEC kind of thing. And
big chocolate, yes.
He just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So there's a lot of size jokes. And also the fabulous Olivia Colman is in it as the main lady. God, so I mean, and who played the butler in Downton Abbey? It's just full of just great actors.
Oh, I love him. He was the gay one, the gay butler.
Not Tom.
No, the stuffy one, Mr. Something or other.
Oh,
Mr. Walmsley or Mr. I'm quite
Jim
sure.
Carter. Jim Carter was his name. Matt Lucas is in it as one of the meanies.
Matt Lucas, the porn star?
No, from Little Britain.
Oh,
who also has some politically incorrect things going on. But let's move on. But I think I've got no chance to convince you. But if you're at the multiplex and you got a chance, go see.
All right. I love it.
It's available for rental on Vudu now, so you can rent it for $14.95 for 4 days.
All right, so we're going to move on now to number 9, another hot in theaters item from James.
Number 9.
I saw The Color Purple in the movie theater, and
So did I.
Loathed every minute of it. Can I tell you? Well, first of all, Fantasia is brilliant. Fantasia is fantastic. She's always fantastic. Taraji B. Henson is a revelation. She is spectacular. She is so good as the role of Shug Avery. Now, there are 2 problems that I have with it. Number 1 is that I had never seen the original Color Purple movie. I'd never read the book, and I'd never seen the Broadway play. So I didn't know the story. I don't know anything about it going into it. And there was an assumption on the part of Oprah and Steven Spielberg that everybody knows everything about this movie and everybody's a fan. So the plot points were not spelled out for me. I didn't 3/4 of the time I was completely lost because so often a plot point would just be sung, and like instead of like banging on it and telling us what was changing. So I didn't understand anything that was going on, and I didn't know who any of the characters were. I kept saying, is that the one Oprah was? Is that the one Whoopi was? Like, I had no idea. Now, the other problem is that there is a dictum in musical theater that you only sing when words are not enough. When the emotion is running so high that talking won't do, you have no choice but to sing your emotions. And they don't follow that in this. This has about 50 songs, and it's like, I'm walking outside and I see a bird and I feel like the color purple because I'm warm inside. And like, it's like, they just start singing every 3 minutes, and it's so boring. And it's like song after song after song. And it's
Is it like an opera that it's all sung?
Well, no, it isn't. But they stuff it with too many songs. They just do. I'm sorry. And another thing was, I thought we were in the 1860s, and then all of a sudden it's like the 1920s, and then it's like the 1930s, and then it's the 1940s, and then it's the 1950s, then it's like the 80s and 90s and 2010s.
No, it doesn't go that
never
far.
Stops.
1947 is the end. 1947.
I thought it was 2017.
It is a little Downton Abbey in that the years pass, but no one gets that much older.
No, and that's it too. Like that we're supposed to watch Fantasia go from being like a 14-year-old to a 59-year-old, and she's the same one. The author. I'm very sorry.
They had a younger actress playing a young Fantasia, to be fair, and they had a young actress playing her sister.
So, Tom, does this mean that you loved it?
I'm full of it in a really kind of good way, and I acknowledge James and I respect James' point of view. I have to say, I saw the original movie and I saw it again recently, and has such
you
a different.
saw the Broadway version, so you knew.
No, I want to talk about the movie, the actual movie.
Oh, but you have seen the Broadway version.
I'm getting there. I saw the actual movie, and I saw the movie again on Turner Classic Movies, and it just vibrates with you. And Whoopi plays it so differently because it's not a musical, and it's all of this silence and this bottled up, and the expressiveness of Whoopi Goldberg and her eyes and her pain. So when she finally explodes at the end of the movie and kind of finds herself, it's shocking. Now, but it's really,
I didn't get any of that from this.
It's really dark in the movie, and this one, because it's a musical, it gives you. And I saw the musical. I saw it in Hollywood with Fantasia as a lead, and Fantasia is one of my favorite artists of all time. I've told you this. I believe in Jesus and the Holy Spirit because of Fantasia. She brings magic into every room. Seeing her live, however you can see her live, do it. It'll change your life.
I have seen her live, and I agree with you.
And so the fact that her performance, or a version of her performance, is captured on film is for the ages to see, I'm thrilled about, and that they chose her. I thought she was
agreed. Okay, yeah.
And I thought every performance actually was very good. I also think Danielle Brooks,
Taraji P. Henson, I had no idea she had that in her.
Yeah.
I was really surprised at just how spectacular she was.
And Danielle Brooks, who is from Orange is the New Black, she plays the character that Oprah played.
But that's just because I would have liked to have seen Oprah's version because people talk so much about it. To me, I didn't quite get the same effect that I think people had.
It was even more effective, and I agree with you. I thought they jumped. No, the Oprah's was even more effective.
Oh, okay.
It's weird because it is for people who are kind of color purple files. Because there's a moment where the wife of Sophia, who's played by Oprah, comes to Whoopi in the movie and says, "How do I handle my wife?" It's also in this musical. And she says, to get her to follow you, you need to beat her, which is what the Whoopi character, Celi's husband, does to her, just horrifically. And so it's like the captive saying, do what is done to me. But then there's this explosive scene, which was truncated in this movie, in the musical, where Oprah is just running across a field and rips open the sheets and goes, "You told Hoppo to beat me." And it is this amazing skin crawling moment. And they, instead of recreating that, they truncated it for the musical. So I get what you're saying. And
okay,
I
didn't know any of that. That whole scene sort of flew past me. I don't really. The whole thing.
It's a lot. It is a lot. It might be worth seeing again or watching those other things. I would say watch The Color Purple, which was criticized at the time. It's a beautiful film. And it's I need to read the book because people keep saying it does feel like this epic book. I think it's the first piece of fiction, Black fiction, to win a Pulitzer Prize. Alice Walker and.
Well, I will say that the one musical number that really stood out for me was the fantasy number where they fall in love and they're kiss. Taraji and Fantasia kiss at the end of it. I thought that was just beautiful.
And they're at that big record player, and it's all.
Yeah, I actually had tears in my eyes during that. That was spectacular.
Our dear friend T.S. Madison is online talking a lot about how the Black community that she's coalesces with or hears from, they're all angry about the lesbianism that's portrayed in this.
Oh, for Christ's
which
sake.
is really like, she goes, men beat each, there's just so much bad and,
Right.
and hurt.
There's like
in this
raping
film.
14-year-olds. There's beating your wife, and
Yes.
that's what they get upset about. That's so right
Exactly.
wing.
Well, that's the times we live in. So that's The Color Purple in theaters now, up for Academy Award consideration and what have you. So I guess I got to go see it. I got to go see these films.
Also, Tom on OWN, a 3-week event, the Color Purple interviews, just so you know.
Oh,
Oprah's interviewing
I'm
them all.
watching now. Thank you.
And purple colored pancakes at IHOP, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
All right.
Oprah has worn nothing but purple for the last 3 weeks.
And she's on Ozempic.
I
Okay.
love it. Number 8.
Number 8.
I took the family to Japan for Christmas. We went to Christmas. And so we flew to Tokyo and then immediately changed planes and flew to Sapporo, which is the big city in the northern island, because we wanted to have a sort of magical snow Christmas. And there was some snow, not a lot, but we did a lot of shopping. And we were in the mall, in the food court, and we saw this stall for snow cheese. And it was like, I don't know, it was like 2 p.m, and they were packing everything up because everything had sold out. And there were just crowds milling around. And it was like, come back tomorrow morning. You can get in line at 9 o'clock. The mall opens at 10 for snow cheese. So, yeah, being tourists, that's what we did. We came back the next morning.
You love your cheese anyway.
What
Well,
makes snow cheese snow cheese?
What
Anything
is
cheese.
snow cheese?
Thank
I
you.
hear you ask. It sounds disgusting when I
Yes.
describe it, but it is cheese flavored chocolate.
Cheese flavored chocolate. Now break that down for me again.
Well, here's why I've got to stop you, because when we think that cheese and sweets don't go together. But what is cheesecake? What is a cheese Danish? Cheese is used in sweet things as a sort of baked good, right?
Sure.
Well, like a cream cheese, right?
Yeah.
I don't
well,
eat those things, though.
cheesecake. What is cheesecake? You eat cheesecake, James.
I love cheesecake. Sure, yeah, I love
Exactly.
cheesecake.
So
Sure.
sweet. So snow cheese is like a chocolate and cheese mix. And here's I mean, it is so amazing to be able to show you, for those of you watching on our YouTube channel, to show you a snow cheese box, because we actually got in line at 9 a.m. At 10 a.m. they opened the doors, and we'd been standing in the wrong baked goods line. So we had to go back and stand in the proper snow cheese line for another 2 hours. And
So wait, how many hours altogether are you?
3 hours in altogether. And as we're approaching the stand, because there were several lines, we had to transfer from outside the stall to near the stall. You finally make it to the final line, and they start selling out of everything. They're like, we're sold out of this. So I have here a snow cheese. It's so, I loved it when we used to be in person and we could like all taste something together, but that's too bad you can't do it. So they're going to unwrap a snow cheese. Look at this, you guys. If I was on home shopping, I'd know how to do this, but it is a gorgeous cracker with the cheese on top, and it looks like a slice of Emmental cheese.
Right.
And it's a delicious graham cracker with the chocolatey cheese on top.
Wait, so it's just a chocolate graham cracker with cheese on it?
With chocolate cheese, James.
Oh.
It's not just cheese, it's chocolate cheese.
So it's not really cheese. It's chocolate that looks like cheese.
Well, here's the thing. No, it is actually cheese flavored chocolate. It is white cheese chocolate.
Or is it chocolate flavored cheese?
Or cheese flavored chocolate. Yes, exactly. It's a delicious hybrid. And here's what I can tell you is that Hokkaido, which is the northern island of Japan, I didn't know this, is renowned for its dairy. And I was like, dairy schmary, how great can it be? Ate some ice cream. It was the most delicious thing I'd ever eaten in my life. There is something about the cows up there. I tell you, the butter, the cheese, the ice cream, the milk, it's unlike anything I've ever tasted anywhere else in my life.
Well, that's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, you bitch. I want to try it so bad.
Come over. My mouth is full. So we were very lucky, and they were rationing it. And we got like 2 boxes each of the snow cheese, which we brought home as gifts, but have eaten them all.
Well, now, but Elliot, how does Elliot stand in line for 3 hours?
Elliot did not. It was Nolan and me standing in line. And it was an interesting moment because Nolan was kind of over the whole thing and was like, I'm on vacation. My vacation is disappearing, waiting in line. And I was like, Nolan, it's Christmas. We're together.
This is something you will remember for the rest of your life, the time you stood in line for 3 hours for snow cheese.
Exactly. And you know what makes a snow cheese very special? There is only one store that sells snow cheese in all of Japan, and it is in Sapporo, in the basement of this mall in the Sapporo train station.
Well, that's theoretically, there's only one store in the entire world then that sells snow cheese.
Exactly. Yes, I will. Yes, exactly. Well done. Yes, exactly. That's exactly right. And it's mobbed. People are just lining
like
up
in that Geo series to me.
Yes, desserts at the end of the world.
Yes, for the one shop at the end of the world.
Well, I wonder if there are other things like snow cheese that there's just one place in the world that, like, you could find different things.
There probably are, but I think Japanese in particular, they do baked goods in a way that is, because they're so beautifully packaged and they're just so sort of insane about them, actually. I mean, there were lots of different lines for these different products, and it was Christmas, so everybody stands in line to get them, to take them home to their families and what have you. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Snow cheese.
Yes,
Snow cheese. We'll give it a little jingle thing.
Well, actually, the snow stands for scent, natural, original wisdom. Snow.
Oh,
Weird how the Japanese use English
to serve their evil marketing ends. Anyway, it's delicious. All right, so we're going to take a quick break. RuPaul's Drag Race Season 16 premieres tonight on Wow Presents Plus Worldwide, excluding USA, of course. You can watch it on MTV if you're in America, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, 2 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time.
I wonder how many of our listeners are not in America.
Many.
Yeah, at least half of the 3 who
Other
listen.
2.
And Charlize Theron is our extra special guest judge. How cool is that?
Wow, spectacular.
Oh, and the first episode streams for free on Wow Presents Plus.
That's right. WowPresentsPlus.com to sign up. Hey, I have a question for you guys.
Yep.
Good.
How big in diameter is the New York City New Year's Eve ball that drops in Times Square?
Well,
I was watching it. I thought I knew. Someone told me. They said it. Anderson and Andy told me.
Well, let's see if you remember.
It's a big ball for sure. We'll have the answer right after the break here on the Wow Report.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
And welcome back to the Wow Report. I am Fenton Bailey here with Tom Campbell, James St. James, and Blake Jacobs. We're going down the top 10 things of the week that made us go wow. But first, the answer to Blake's teasing question.
Yes, I asked the New Year's ball that drops in Times Square. How big in diameter is it?
It was a new one this year, and it was 16 feet in diameter.
I reckon it's 4 feet.
20 feet.
12 feet.
Oh. Fenton gives the closest without going over.
You'd think it wouldn't be too hard to remember 12 feet, James.
Why?
12, 12 inches. It's the size of all things that everybody wants. Okay. We're counting down the top 10 things of the week that made us go wow. And we've reached number 7.
Number 7.
On our beautiful holiday, away from the office, thank you, Fenton. This year we didn't have to work on Christmas Day. I went home for part of it, which we talked about off air, and then I just stayed home and watched TV. You know, big surprise. And usually I stream or I watch the Turner Classic Movies. You know this about me, or the QVC. Well, I got hooked on, I think it's called Cozi TV. It's like one of those Me TVs.
It's like
and
Me
they
TV.
and they show Cara Burnett, and I've seen them before, but they had on, and I'm going to lose Fenton. You can just go and do some errands. I'm going to lose, and maybe
snow cheese.
A show I have not seen since it originally ran in 1972 that I had such fond memories of, and it was Bridget Loves Bernie.
Oh yeah, sure, with Meredith Baxter. No, wait, was it Meredith Baxter?
Meredith Baxter and David Burney.
Yes,
and it was about David Burney was this adorable, and that's why I realized I was 9 years old when it played. It aired between, it was single camera, it was light comedy, romantic comedy. It aired between All in the Family and the Mary Tyler Moore Show. So it had this primo shot. It did really, really well in the ratings, but it was taken off the air because Jewish groups complained about the stereotypical behavior. Also starring in it was Audra Lindley, who became Mrs. Roper, was Bridget's rich mother, Mrs. Fitzgerald, and is it David Doyle who played Bosley on? He plays her father, and he's like this rich guy. And David Burney and Bridget live in the Jewish deli above her his working class parents, who and the uncle and the thing, and it starts.
Wait. So you're saying that the Jewish
people were not happy with the way Jews were portrayed.
In just the way they spoke, or the what?
I don't know, because I watch it and I think, like, what a great, it's a sitcom, so they're going to play on tropes to a certain extent, but it was woke for its time, and it talked about different cultures, and Bridget was always trying to learn how to be a better, Jewish, wife, and all kinds of things.
Wait, so Meredith is like a WASP who marries a Jewish man?
A Catholic who marries a Jewish man, yes. And she comes from wealth and he comes from working class. And he's a writer.
All I remember of this, hold on, is that he had really good hair and he had a lot of chest hair. And that's why I as a young boy, his chest hair.
He sleeps in just pajama bottoms. And it is all just perfection. He's skinny. He's beautiful. His hair is fantastic. She is a thing of beauty. Together, they are the best looking two people who have ever been together. They're at the prime of their youth and their beauty. And they ended up getting married and stayed together for a long time. That's why I know her as Meredith Baxter Burney. She eventually divorced him and came out as a lesbian. But this was the moment that they could not help but fall in love. And, it's really kind of, I didn't find it offensive, but, it's very typical kind of humor, but it would just always end with them like making out, just like, oh, honey, and you're just like, oh my God, it's the best show ever. And the only last image I'll leave you with is he drives a cab during the day. He shares it with a black character. They actually cast a black character who, I forget his name, forgive me, but he ended up, I Googled it, he was Dionne Warwick's first husband. Anyway, they shared the cab, and the black guy wrote it at night, and David wrote it during the day. And David Burney was an aspiring playwright, and so they shared the cab. But the whole show starts on black, and a cartoon of a cab drives by and cleans off the screen, and it's all this beautiful, beautiful images of New York in 1972. And it's by Douglas Kramer, who ended up partnering with Stephen
Aaron Spelling.
Aaron Spelling, and did all that. But it was like this kind of like 60s romantic comedy, and they had shot all this B-roll of them like riding in the park from far away, and they would dub scenes over it, like, "Oh, what are you going to tell your mother? I don't know. What are you going to do?" I just loved it. I loved it so much, and I would see things. There's one episode where they find a painting under a painting. That old trope. And the painting on top of the painting, the under one was worth something, was like of a duck, and I'm like, oh my God, I remember that painting, but only from 1972. Anyway.
On Cozi TV, I got sucked into a marathon of The Girl with Something Extra. Sally Field has ESP.
And John Davidson.
Yeah, and she's in love with. She and John Davidson are married.
Also a 1-season show, but like watching them as a binge.
To me, it could have lasted 8 or 9 seasons in my mind, because I remember just watching it. It was a big part of my childhood.
I thought the girl with something extra was Tish Gervais. I thought that's where it came from.
No, it's about a girl with psychic powers.
I don't know which came first, like chocolate or cheese or chocolate. I don't know which came first. But they both exist.
All right, so that's on Cozi TV.
It just brought back such fond memories. It just tapped parts of my brain that have not been tapped in.
And it sounds like Cozi TV is a channel, a retro channel.
It is, and there's a lot of like catheter ads and things like that on it. It's really for old people.
Ads are getting much, yes, depends on what have you. Number 6, James.
Number 6.
Number 6, I watched Maestro. It was another clunker as far as I was concerned. Carey Mulligan is spectacular. She's very good. She's always very good. Bradley Cooper was acting, and he was cigarette acting. His cigarette deserves the Academy Award because it was waving all around all the time. I was distracted because I thought Bradley Cooper with his prosthetic nose looked like Barry Manilow. I would get confused and think it was the Barry Manilow story for most of the time. Not that different of a story. A lot of people were saying that the major problem with it was there was no conflict in the screenplay, and essentially the conflict is that Bradley Cooper doesn't have an Oscar and Bradley Cooper wants an Oscar, and so Bradley Cooper is going to write himself a story arc that gives him an Oscar.
So the conflict is outside, it's a meta sort of thing.
Yes, yeah, and you could say that the conflict is that she grows weary of her husband's narcissistic behavior and flagrant bisexuality, but she knows that going into it, so that by the end, spoiler alert, when she screams, "You're gonna die an old queen all alone," that's the big revelation. But it's not a revelation. She's known all along who he is. I don't know.
And she takes accountability in the film for it, even.
Yeah, and the other problem with it is that Leonard Bernstein was a legend and a genius and a fascinating person and a fascinating character. And I would have liked to have seen more of his story, of West Side Story, of On the Town, of his career. And they skip over his career very much. To me, the most interesting part was the fantasy sequence with the sailors from On the Town. I liked that, but it's just their relationship. And I don't know. I wish they would have concentrated more on his career.
James, I love you, and I usually respect your point of view. And I hate to say this, but I agree entirely with you on this one. No, because I saw it with my sister, and she was like, I liked it. I mean, there's nothing bad about it, right? It's actually, they're sequence by sequence. It's beautifully directed. It's
beautifully shot. Yes.
Oh my God. And she's quite something, and he's not bad, but it just, it felt very like I left not feeling like I learned anything. There's the spoiler alert. The other scene is where there are rumors going around that their children are now old enough. One of the daughters is old enough to sort of hear rumors about her father having sex with men. And comes and the mother's like, talk to your daughter about it. And I think she tells him to deny it, right? Or does he just decide? She tells him deny it. So he goes.
I think you see him. He does deny it, and it's shocking. And it was just such a wrong message. Keep going. I'm sorry.
It's not like it was a message. I think if I'm assuming it happened, and that it was still. It shows that even with this open relationship, which on some ways it was, this understanding that they had. That she didn't want her daughter to know it. There was still shame in it to her. And that the daughter goes, Dad, is it true? And he's like, no, it's not true.
You're jealous. Everybody's jealous.
And the daughter is so relieved. And it just speaks, I thought it was a profound scene because it just speaks to how people want the lies. It's how people can think Liberace was straight. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not a good message. It's just like, because there's two things, good and bad, which is like, you realize, because I'm so myopic about my own lifetime, but it's like, people have been gay throughout history and they found ways to deal with it. And this was one way to deal with it in society in New York, was like marry a beard wife, right? And it doesn't invalidate their relationship or make them any less of a couple, but it's like, that's how they made it work. But even within that, society pressure, blah, 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 caused people to sort of turn each other.
Like you're much more forgiving, I think, than I am about those things, because to me, I think that the lie was worse than the feeling of.
But that's why that scene to me is the one that stood out as like, holy shit, this is like,
Yeah,
that was the conflict, but it wasn't the conflict the whole movie, but it's.
And how terrible it must have been to, as a father, to like lie to your child and know that your child is relieved that you aren't.
Yeah,
you
I'm
are.
not one of them.
Terrible sort of.
I'm not one of them.
Yeah.
but I think that he's such a narcissist that I don't think that I think that it was for him just, I'm doing what I have to do to keep her love and keep her respect, because that's the most important thing to me, rather than the truth.
Right.
And I talk about, my friend Johnny was married to a very prominent man in New York who's very involved in the Metropolitan Museum, and he was a gay man and chose to live his life as a gay man. He's kind of a contemporary, but maybe a little bit younger than Maestro. But he never chose to marry, and that's sort of what he had a ceiling at the Met. He could never be the head of the Met because you needed to have a wife who was going to have the luncheons, who was going to do the hunt, and that was very much in our lifetime. So
we got to move on, but it's crazy to say. I think that ceiling still exists, actually.
I do believe that that's true, that you do need a power wife for a lot of those types of things.
Yeah.
Have you seen it yet?
I have not. It came out to enormous acclaim, and then everyone I respect and value, like you two, has just said it's a real bore. And I believe, Oscar bait movies seem to arrive with this fanfare that it's the most amazing thing, and then in reality, it's like, no, they're not. They're actually desperately seeking awards. That's what they're really.
Benton, I would suggest then that you watch maybe the first 45 minutes and see if it hooks you, because it's like I say, it's beautifully shot and beautifully acted by Carrie. And,
all right, we'll watch it. And Bradley Cooper's fine. All right, so number 5.
Number 5.
I'm in Japan. And what do you do if you're in Japan and you're in Tokyo? You go on a day trip to Mount Fuji, because we've all seen Mount Fuji. It is a universal icon. And it's just one of those things in life that to actually go to it, because I was like, who wants to go to Mount? I mean, I've seen the mountain. You can see it from Tokyo. How much better can it get? I mean, other than bigger, but it was truly amazing. And
how do you go up the mountain?
No, didn't even go. Well, actually, yes. Right. So what happened is, first we took a train, then we took a bus, and we started out at the Hakone Shrine, which is like one of those Shinto shrines by one of the lakes with the lovely torii gates, the big red things on stilts with a lintel on top. And it's amazing. People in Japan are just the place is immaculately clean, and people are so immaculately well behaved. They don't shout in public. They don't carry on, and they line up in front of this shrine to take a selfie. And everybody is very respectful. Everybody takes their moment. There's no like people who are hogging or pushing or trying. It was like we waited for an hour.
Don't you wish that America could have Japanese civility?
I really do. And one of the things they say about there's no trash on the street, and you're one day you're like, where do I put my Starbucks cup? And you realize there are no trash cans on the street. And that was the strategy. They were so fed up with dirty streets. They removed all the trash cans and shamed everyone into taking their trash with them and having less trash. So you don't eat in public. You don't eat, you're not like Anna Wintour wandering around with a Starbucks cup. You have your Starbucks in the coffee shop and deal with your cup there. And if you don't, you have to carry it with you until you get to the office or wherever.
I imagine they don't have a rat problem like you have in
right. No rat problem either. But back to Mount Fuji, so beautiful. And then from the shrine, we took a funicular. We took another bus, then a funicular railway, and then a cable car. And this is at this point we've probably been traveling for about 3 hours, and like. And the guide who was with us said, no, really, this is the reason why you came. And you crest on the cable car, and suddenly you're above the caldera of this active volcano. And there is sulfurous smoke bubbling up. I mean, and the floor of the cable car is a grill to let the air pass through, because otherwise you might suffocate on sulfurous gases. So I had no idea. I mean, I had no idea it was still happening.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
And
And
the 3 hours leading up was known like my entire vacation is disappearing in front of my
there was
eyes.
a little bit of tension. We had mellowed out at the shrine, but it still wasn't quite enough to get us from the bottom up to this elevated part, which still isn't the top. I mean, it's sort of like a mini volcano on the way. I mean, it's so big. It's so big. It contains multitudes of volcanoes. And even though you're at this peak, you look over and there's Mount Fuji in the distance, massive, and you've only gone a tiny, teeny bit of the way. They
Like
also have
Mordor.
yes, I mean, it was Lord of the Ringsian. It really was in its drama.
And you're at the peak right there with that peak, and you look out over onto Tokyo. How high up are you? Is it?
Yeah, you can look out onto Tokyo, but you also look out onto and up to Mount Fuji.
Yeah,
the rest of Mount Fuji, and you can buy. The thing is that they boil eggs in the hot springs, and these eggs they come out of it black, and everybody buys these eggs. I actually don't have one with me. They're good for the Instagram. Didn't actually eat it, but if you do eat the egg, you will live for another 7 years. You get 7 years extra life if you eat
just 7 years and you're done. Is that it?
You're only supposed to eat one egg. You're not supposed to eat. You have to buy 4, but you're only supposed to eat 1. I guess you share them or something, whatever.
Are you? Is it sulfuric-y tasting the egg?
Well, here's the thing. We got the eggs and I used them to take photographs for Instagram. And then I forgot to eat them. And if you don't eat the boiled egg in like 2 days and you don't put it in the fridge, you could basically live a lot less than 7 extra years.
7 hours.
So we didn't get to eat the eggs, unfortunately. Anyway, so that's
I travel someplace exotic. That was an incredible story.
Really do recommend it. It's just spectacular and so peaceful and beautiful. And going up the top of the mountain was in the clouds, and I thought, oh, that sucks because you've traveled 4 hours and you don't get the iconic view. But then the clouds cleared and it was like, quick, take the pictures.
And I think it's safe to say, because you're here, but you didn't deal with earthquake or
missed the earthquake, thankfully. Yes,
and that was in northern Japan, wasn't it? So that was
no, it was like west of Tokyo. It was on the west coast of Tokyo, and Tokyo's on the east coast. So yes, and sorry to hear that there's like quite a high death penalty. A lot of people died in that.
The earthquake situation in Japan, I just my heart breaks for them for some reason.
Yeah, and then of course the air crash that followed it, which is terrible as well.
Terrible.
All right, let's take a quick break. Blake.
Stassi Schroeder from Vanderpump Rules. It's been revealed she is a distant cousin of someone who was all over the news over this past holiday break. Who is it?
Oh, I know.
You're never going to believe it.
Back after the break with the answer here on the Wow Report.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Welcome back to the Wow Report. I'm Fenton here with Tom and James and Blake. And you got a question?
I did. Stassi Schroeder from Vanderpump Rules. It's been revealed she is a distant relative of someone who has been all over the news over this past holiday break. Who is it, James? You know.
I know. It has to be Donald Trump, because the news over the break was that he poos his pants.
That's news?
Hey.
Putin.
No, it's Gypsy Rose Blanchard, right?
It is, yes.
Yes. Who, bless her heart, I did not know the Gypsy Rose Blanchard story, but I am just fascinated with every movie. Did you see today that when she was posting about her husband's dick is fire and he gives it to her every night?
I did.
Oh, girl, I'm glad you're living your best life, but do I need to know?
I know.
She's a few years behind on social media. She'll catch up on the etiquette soon.
We're counting down the top 10 things of the week that made us go, wow. We've reached number 4, Tom.
Number 4.
I'm not gonna talk about resolutions. That's so passe, but I just wished for all of us freedom from this tense world, escape from this tense world, but based on these little tiny observations I made. On one is celebrity related, so it'll get better. Now when I get on flights, because I am very happy flyer, and I'm just like, I remind people on my flight, like when things get delayed or whatever, I go, you used to like freeze in the Rockies crossing America in a covered wagon. You'd have diphtheria, you would give birth and die in breech birth.
You'd have to eat your fellow passenger.
Yes, all those things. So it's like, you know what? The fact that I woke up in one city and go to sleep in another city, but someone's seat had to change. And I was flying JetBlue, so it's not that fancy, but it was in the extra seat part. You spent a little money on it. And somebody brought a dog, but the wife of this doctor was allergic. Anyway, this changing of seats, people were like, I refuse and I won't move. And it got calmed down, but I wanted to like throw hundreds at the flight attendant because she was handling this incredibly tense situation and how quick we are to snap and be crazy. Okay, escape that one. And then I come back to LA and on Hollywood Boulevard, Ian Zerling from 90210 fame.
Yes.
It's funny to watch, which is the sad part, but he is surrounded by little mini bike gang of bikes. And they're not little people, but they look like little people because they're on little mini bikes. And they somehow surround his car. And out of context, you just see him beating up on them beating up on him. But it's like girls and boys. And he's got this, X6 BMW. It's just not a good look. And someone said, is it staged? It's like, it's not staged because nobody comes out looking good on it. And it's like, kind of fighting. And
why were they attacked?
It brings me to TMZ, and he was not provoked, according to 2 of the bikers. They were within their thing, and he just had a really bad day. I'm thinking, like, what if
Ian had a bad day, or they?
Ian just went off on them, and Ian's daughter was in the car, and he crosses Hollywood Boulevard. He's like, again, my back hurts just looking at it, but he's like fighting them and pushing them. They still have their helmets on, so it feels like a Star Wars kind of thing. And last but not least, so I went to see Color Purple at the Grove last night, which was a weeknight, so it wasn't too bad. And my friend Greg and he wanted to walk around, so we went into Barnes & Noble. Everyone was buying Screen Age. And all of a sudden, we're just looking at stuff. There was this one employee who confronted this one guy who had stuff in the back, but it ended up his whole face was covered in like masks and scarves. And then stealth at the Beverly Grove, security guard. And I was like, let's get out of here. And I've just never had, my friend Greg was like, what are you doing? I'm like, go. I just don't want to find out what weapon that person has. I don't live in paranoia, but I just felt like this is unsafe. And what was really impressive was this army of mall guards, of mall police coming forward. But there's all these smash and kills, and
I agree with you that in today's world, that if I start seeing 10 security guards, 12 flashing lights, where is the exit? Get me out of here. I do not need to be involved in whatever is going to happen next. And I think that I do when I go to the theater, I look to see where the closest exit is. I do that now, and I never did it before. But like you said, with the smash and grabs and all that stuff that's happening everywhere, why put yourself in the middle of those things?
So the pandemic is rage. That's what it is, right?
A lot of things. Yeah, that's part
of it. Rage-demic.
Yes, and people feel free to act out. And I watch on TV and I feel like it's propaganda to an extent. It's really happening. But like LA is a terrible city to live in. It's like, I love it here. But once your bubble, and my bubble has not been popped yet, my bubble of safety or the illusion of safety, but I want to keep it that way. But I just
no, but I'll tell you something. Even at World of Wonder, our fabulous security guy, Danny, who is the nicest guy on the planet. He says on a daily basis, he deals with people getting, he has to break up fights and people fighting in front of the building and things. So the bubble isn't as big as you think it is.
No,
the
not at all.
The bubble is right there, and it is on Hollywood Boulevard. And thank God we have someone wonderful like Danny to
we actually have 4
there.
people, but I just want everyone to think that we have.
But I do remember when the store was open, all of a sudden there was a giant crash, and Danny came rolling in with another guy, and they were both fighting on the ground and rolling into the like it was just. I was like, oh my God! I ran upstairs and got Beth, and Danny said, no, that happens every day. Like it's part of his job, I mean, like
Beth came downstairs and she beat the shit out of the guy.
So the message is peace in the new year, right?
Yes.
Calm the fuck down, right?
Yes.
Or have an escape route ready.
Oh, yes. Number 3, James.
Number 3.
Killers of the Flower Moon. Have you guys all seen it?
I haven't yet.
Oh, okay. Well,
it's really long, right? It's really, really long.
3.5 hours. Okay. And at one point I thought, okay, we got to be at 2 hours, and I was at 45 minutes. And another point I was like, okay, it's got to be almost over with. And I was like at 1 hour and 20 minutes. Like, it is a long movie, but Lily Gladstone deserves every award that she's gotten 24 awards so far this season, and she's on a streak, and nobody's going to top her. Nobody's going to stop her. She is a revelation. She is so good. Lily Gladstone is an Osage woman who marries Leonardo DiCaprio's character, and she is so self-possessed and so calm and just the way she just projects, it's just fascinating to watch. Even though she understands inherently that he is a terrible person, she still falls in love with him. She calls him Coyote. She's speaking in native in her tongue, and she's in her language, and she keeps calling him, "You Coyote, you're my Coyote." But she doesn't call him a wolf or a fox. She understands that he's a bottom feeder, like just he's just scum is what he is. But she loves him anyway, and it's this weird dichotomy that you can never quite figure out. Unfortunately, she spends the last half of the movie on her sickbed dying, and it's a shame because the first half she is so full of fire and life, and so even though it's like a very calm fight, it's so weird to explain her performance, but it pulls you in. Leonardo DiCaprio is a scumbag in such a way. He does it so well that you walk away thinking that's probably what he's really like in real life, because he just taps into it so well. Robert De Niro is menacing in a really quiet way that is terrifying, and I feel like my grandfather was like that character. Like, everything I know about my grandfather, I watch that and I just think that's what my grandfather was like. It was very unnerving for me to watch, because just the way he controls the city and the way he controls everybody around him with just this quiet, menacing, but pretending to be the good guy. It's just fascinating to watch. And I had no idea, first of all, about the Osage murders. I didn't know about this part of our history. And, there were 30, 40, 50 murders of Osage County Native Americans that were never solved. And what it happens is that the Osage, the Osage Native Americans found oil on their land, and they became, per capita, per square foot, the richest people on the planet Earth. Okay, this small town had more oil on it, and they owned the rights to it, so they were the richest population in the entire planet, more than Paris, more than London, more than anywhere. And so all of a sudden, all the white men came in to exploit that, and they were all trying to marry the women so that they would get the land rights. And that's why everyone kept dying, was because everyone was killing them to get the land rights for this oil. And
Question, bottom line. Do you recommend this movie?
yes, it's fascinating, and it's something. Like I said, I didn't know the story. I didn't know that this happened. I mean, the atrocities that we have committed upon, our Native American.
You learn something.
And so probably win some Oscars.
I think it will. She will definitely win it out. She will definitely win.
All right, that's Killers of the Flower Moon, available for rent now. Actually, number two.
Number two.
A Murder at the End of the World. I wouldn't normally watch this, but I heard such great things about it. Everyone was saying it's so amazing. And after about the first of what seemed like interminable number of hours-long episodes, I think this is complete rubbish.
Oh,
it's sort of a Knives Out, sort of Only Murders in the Building, if only it were Only Murders in the Building, because Only Murders in the Building is funny and clever and meta. And this is earnest and dull and emo and miserablest. And it's just like, how can you take yourself seriously when you're at a billionaire's retreat in the Arctic with supposedly the brightest minds on the planet, in a race against global warming? Already you're in a sort of redonkulous sort of parody of a situation, but it's so earnest and dull. And
who's in it?
Oh, Britt Marling she did the OA with Zal Batman Gilsh, and she did. I mean, her story is an interesting story in her emergence as a sort of writer, actor, superstar, because she and Zal and another guy, they moved to LA, they met at Georgia University, they had no money, they were trying to get jobs, they couldn't get jobs, so they thought, fuck it, let's just do our own thing, wrote 2 films, shot them, both got into Sundance, and off they go. And it's an amazing success story, and the people love the OA. I've never seen it. It's on Netflix, the OA. But I thought this was just awful. And but I kept on watching it because everyone had said it was so good. And so, there are all these characters. They're supposed to be super smart, but they kind of just seem stupid, really. And they're sort of diverse in a way that you can just tell someone said, we need a gay in a wheelchair. We need a non-binary person with purple hair. We need it was just like the algo did all this.
It is Mad Libs for diversity.
Like it felt like Leave the World Behind felt like that way to me. It just felt like everyone takes bits and pieces of things and think that because, and they all come from sort of meme viral culture or woke diverse culture, and then they think you put them all together and you got a movie or you've got a cover.
You got it covered.
And it was just boring. And I spoiler alert, but so there's a murderer in their midst. We're on the Orient Express. We're at a zillionaire's retreat. We're contained environment. Murderer in their midst. Plot is so full of holes. I couldn't credit it. I just couldn't believe the things that were happening that we were supposed to take seriously as real drama with people in jeopardy. Of course, stupid things happen in Murders in the Building, but that's the whole point. And they're all in on the joke. But this was deadly earnest, and it made me very cross. We just got
yourself a favor and watch a little Bridget Loves Bernie. It'll put you back on the right track.
I think I need to. The best bit was the amateurs, Generation Z sleuth, decides to go out with a woman and they go out into a mega storm is approaching. So of course they've got to go into it, and they put on these suits that are like designed for outer space. So they're going to be okay, right? So they set off into the storm on the back of a snowmobile to find someone who was sending Morse code to someone else. How you're going to find someone in the wilderness in an approaching storm who was sending Morse code the night before makes no sense. And of course, they don't find anyone. So they have to go back. And when they're going back, the snowmobile runs out of gas. Well, okay, but I thought you were in suits that you could survive on Mars. So it doesn't matter, does it? that you're in a mega storm approaching and you're snowboard. But no, they somehow get a car that just happens to be out there in the middle of the wilderness. And then they crash the car because they're driving too fast because they're trying to outrun the storm. But then the driver of the car dies because she ends up being hermetically sealed in her helmet and they can't get it off. But in the previous scene, when they were driving, they'd taken their helmets off. It was just like, no, don't insult me. This makes no sense. And oh, sorry. Yes, it turns out that the murderer is the AI bot. Yeah, but you know, the AI person who's there to help everyone. And there's a ridiculous scene where they go to the center of the server room and it's a giant place and they have to light a fire or something to, it's just like really.
I'm just going to give this movie a rating, and the rating is don't fuck with Fenton.
Do you know what it was like? It was like that Uncanny Valley thing. You know where Uncanny Valley is like everything's computer generated and it's almost human, but something is really off about it. Like when you went on the ride at Universal,
yes.
You know, and it just something, I don't know what's going on. Like it feels like lots of stuff is being written by algorithms or Chat GPT, because it
does feel like Chat GPT. Yes, I understand that exactly.
It's all just slightly wrong in a way that is really isn't like, oh well, that's a bit weird. It's like really makes you angry, like enraged.
Maybe it's supposed to, and then you go on planes.
Then you're on a plane
and Hollywood Boulevard, and you beat up mini bikers. It's all part of the master plan.
That's what's happening.
Like you, I had heard so many fantastic things about it, and now I will not watch it. You've changed. You've
watch some of it. Tell me what you think. Maybe you disagree. Maybe I've lost my mind.
Well,
that's entirely possible.
Possibility. Yeah.
You know, I have the solution here. Drink House of Love cocktails. There are 3 new flavors available at houseoflovecocktails.com. You can get them by ordering them. There's a vodka soda citrus. That's
100 calories.
Yes. There is a passion fruit margarita, also 100 calories.
100 calories tequila, baby.
And for those who don't drink, a totally tropical mocktail, perfect for dry January.
Totally tropical, non-alcoholic, House of Love.
I mean, I think the cans just look so delicious, but the contents is pretty juicy too. And you can get them at houseoflovecocktails.com.
We put a little bit of love in every can. So
drink responsibly, Hanny. All these slogans have been thought up by the wonderful, amazing, genius Tom Campbell.
Oh, thank you. Oh, hold your applause.
One more break, and then we'll reveal the number one thing this week that made us go, wow.
You're listening to World of Wonders Wow Report. Things that make us go wow.
Welcome back to the Wow Report. This episode is as long as the Killers of the Flower Moon, says Blake. So we better get on with it, I guess. Running down the top 10 things that made us go wow. We've reached number 1. What is it?
Number 1.
I just wanted to talk a little bit about my New Year's and then see what you guys did over New Year's as well. I had a friend in town from New York that I have been sort of taking around and showing him things and doing things. And when it came time for New Year's Eve, I didn't have any plans. I didn't know what to do. And he said that he saw that Lady Bunny was spinning at something called the Bev Center. And he said, "Is that a concert hall?" And I said, "No, it's a mall.
The Beverly Center."
The Beverly Center. So we decided to go and check it out. Now, you'd think the Bev Center, like what? It would be in the middle, like what? Where? So we went, and there was we were wandering through the empty mall at like 11 o'clock at night. There was nobody in the mall. Like literally, it was like Day of the Dead. It was totally like zombies could have gotten us at any moment. We heard music way up. Like we were trying to follow the music. It was in the food court area. Okay. That they had turned into a very classy supper theater that was run by Brandon Voss, who does a lot of, drag race, parties and things like that. So Brandon, bless his heart, got us in. The tickets were $125. We swooshed in without paying. Woo! So, but it was
You've never paid, James, ever.
No. But this, I didn't. All I said was, James St. James, I'm on the list, and all of a sudden, people came out of the woodwork and like, James, of course, Brandon. Hey, da 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 da. So that was very sweet. But there was a burlesque show. There was a very classy burlesque show. There was male strippers. There were drag queen performances, lip syncs. Then Bunny, they cleared all the tables out, and Bunny DJ'd, and everyone danced. And then Aubrey O'Day came on and sang. Well, Bunny said to me, "Do you know who Aubrey O'Day is?" And I said, "Yes, she was on The Hills. She was on the real thinking Audrina Patridge."
No.
And so I kept saying, "Yes, I'm so excited. I loved her on The Hills." And I must have said that about a dozen times throughout the night, and nobody corrected me until I found out that she was part of Danity Kane. Well, I've never heard of Danity Kane in my life.
Do you have a first aid kit handy? Do you?
That's not a song. Do you have a first aid kit handy?
Yes, damaged. My love is damaged.
That's not a song you're making. This is like that. It's the color purple, and the birds are singing. You're just making it up as you go along. Anyway, what did you guys do over New Year's?
I was in bed by 8:30. Went to sleep.
I went to bed really early too.
Well, that's what I think Tom is playing.
The Chat GPT and put in song about a first aid kit.
Happy New Year, everyone. That's all we got time for this week on the Wow Report. You can catch previous episodes on our YouTube channel, Wow Presents. And God willing, we'll see you same time, same place next week. Until then, go out and do something that makes the world go
wow.